The UN as the apparatus, according to Ralph Epperson. The central truth, according to Epperson, is this. For centuries, a small, secretive elite has worked to establish a totalitarian global government, which they call the New World Order. This is not a modern political idea, but the end goal of a conspiracy. This elite, which Epperson links to the Illuminati, certain strands of Freemasonry, and international bankers, operates on a fundamental belief that humanity must be ruled from above. Individual liberty, national sovereignty, and particularly Christian faith are the primary obstacles to their plan. Their method is simple. Create crises, wars, economic collapses, social unrest, and then offer their pre-planned solution, which always involves the surrender of more freedom and sovereignty to a centralized authority. The pattern, Epperson argues, is visible in the 20th century's major events. World War I was engineered to destroy old empires. The League of Nations was the first public attempt at their world government structure. When nations rejected it, a greater crisis was needed. Thus, World War II was fomented to create devastation so profound that the world would clamor for a new system of collective security. That system was the United Nations. The UN is not, in this view, a well-intentioned failure. It is, by design, the successor to the League and the fully realized testing ground and administrative framework for the coming one-world government. Its structure reveals the blueprint. UN's structural blueprint for global control. Let's examine the UN through Epperson's lens. First, the Security Council. Its power to mandate military action and impose binding resolutions is the nascent world army and global legislature in embryo. The veto power held by the major powers, the conspirators' key agents, ensures control remains in the right hands. Peacekeeping forces are not neutral arbiters, but the prototype for a global constabulary that can override national borders. Second, the Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC, and its specialized agencies. This is the apparatus for standardizing global behavior. The World Health Organization, WHO, sets global health dictates. UNESCO shapes global education and culture, seeking to remove national and religious identities. The Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, controls food policy. The International Monetary Fund and World Bank, though separate, are key levers for creating debt and economic dependency, forcing nations to comply with globalist dictates. Each agency builds a piece of the regulatory cage. Third, and most critically, international law and treaties. Epperson views treaties not as agreements between nations, but as traps. They are tools to slowly transfer sovereignty from nation-states, especially the United States, to unelected UN bureaucrats. The Law of the Sea Treaty, potential arms treaties, and environmental agreements like those from the UN Earth Summit are all designed to place sovereign resources and national policies under international management. The ultimate goal of this legal framework is disarmament. Not mutual disarmament, but the disarmament of sovereign nations and their citizenry, leaving them defenseless against the emerging global authority, which would, of course, retain a monopoly on force. The path to fulfillment and the stakes. For Epperson, the UN's true purpose is activated during crisis. Its charter allows for the suspension of standard operations in times of what it deems a threat to international peace. This is the trigger mechanism. The conspirators' plan, as laid out in the book, requires a final cataclysmic crisis, an economic collapse, a pandemic, or a fabricated alien threat so severe that the panicked populations of the world will willingly, even desperately, beg for global governance. The UN structure stands ready to be transformed overnight into a fully operational world government with its own courts, taxation through proposed global taxes, military and direct authority over individuals. The stakes, in Epperson's view, are absolute. This is not a political contest between left and right. It is a spiritual and ideological war between two opposing visions. One, the Christian constitutional vision of national sovereignty, individual liberty granted by God, and decentralized power. 2. The secular humanist collectivist vision of the New World Order, a godless, planned global society where rights are granted by the state and all human activity is managed from the top down. The United Nations is the battlefield where this war is currently being waged through paperwork, treaties, and bureaucratic creep. It is the testing ground because every successful erosion of sovereignty, every normalized intervention, and every accepted global standard makes the final transition to outright global dictatorship not only possible but inevitable. The final question Epperson's work implies is not if the conspirators will attempt to use the UN framework to complete their plan, but when the next manufactured crisis will be launched to justify the final leap.